My power is perfect in your weakness. We heard Paul talk today in our second reading about a thorn. Many conjecture because he doesn't describe what it is specifically. What kind of thorn did he have? And we ask this in part because perhaps we could relate to what that thorn could be in our own life. A thorn in the flesh. So perhaps some kind of physical ailment, some chronic condition that he has to struggle with. Seems to be related to some kind of persecution. Perhaps it was some kind of injury that he actually received, especially at the hands of others that were persecuting him. I think there's a better case, first by asking a better question. Not what was the thorn, but who was the thorn? You say that because of the persecution that he received in trying to share the gospel, and that he immediately also describes this as an angel of Satan. Thorn in the flesh could be used as what we would say with somebody who's a pain in the neck. Now you could say, well, that's just somebody that really, really bothered him. Because we all have those people in our lives. But I'd like to suggest that perhaps it's not one specific person, and thus he doesn't name this person, but something of a person. And the example I've found in my own life was that as I was going through my childhood and then getting into my teen years, part of the context is back in my day, every once in a while they would take a kid that seemed to be promising, and there's other ways you can handle kids that were doing pretty good in classwork. Well, back then they would just skip a grade. So I went from first grade to third grade. I had a busy summer in between those, doing some second grade work. And as I got older, I would continue to do pretty good in classes. But I was small for my grade. And so I had this double whammy of creating, I didn't realize this, but creating some jealousy because I was doing well in school, and yet I was easy to pick on because I was small. So let's pick on the smart kid. It became a thorn, though, because it wasn't so much I could name this kid or that kid, but then I started getting a message, a voice in my head, and really I call it the message in your heart. And it was this: yeah, you may be smart, but you're weak. You're worthless. We all have something, oftentimes early in our life, this thorn, this voice, this message, which resides in us. It's the angel of Satan, this thorn. And because it's an angel of Satan, we must remember it's a lie. It's a lie. But it feels true. Sometimes our heads hear this voice. We understand what it means, but it lives somewhere else. So it just always feels true. So then we, especially if we've grown up around our Catholic faith, we've kind of been around all this Jesus stuff, and we say, I know who Jesus is, but he's familiar, but the voice is familiar, and the voice hasn't gone away. The message still resides in me. It's easy because of that familiarity to do exactly what happened in Nazareth. That we, in a sense, can reject Jesus. Because, yeah, he's been around, but so has my thorn. it doesn't really feel like he's doing anything. And perhaps it's because we assume that the thorn doesn't go away, that Jesus is not doing anything. Now, Paul was praying for that, take this away, and then he realized that what Jesus was doing in his life was something different. And this is what Jesus in Nazareth found was lacking, which is faith. Faith in the sense that whether or not we have this weakness, whether or not we have this thorn, and the fact is we do. And the fact is that we can buy into the lie. But what we do in our prayer is not ask for removal, but that something can overpower this thorn. And that is Jesus himself, whom we invite into the very spaces that we feel most weak, that we feel most worthless, that we buy into that lie, that voice. Our prayer is about asking Jesus to have communion with us. In some ways, it's the easiest place, because we know in those points of our weakness, we know we can't do it ourselves. And instead of thinking, well, I could do it myself if my weakness is gone, is to say, I'm never going to be able to do it. It's an angel of Satan, very powerful, but Christ is more powerful. And that's the place that Christ's power can dwell in us. So when we search for that place where we don't have power, is the place we will discover the power of God in our lives. This is why in the Eucharist we make a continual offering. We come ready to offer so many prayers we have for other people, but especially our own weaknesses. The places where we're starting to not buy into the lie as much, but it's so powerful. It seems so embedded. And so we have to do this a lot. We offer that in that opening prayer where there's a little bit of silence, before we all pray together, that first prayer together, the collect, because we're offering our weakness. As the bread and wine comes down, that's all of our weaknesses being combined, and that's where we all encounter the power of Christ, who ultimately in communion, we say, I believe, I have faith, and his power takes over in our thorns. The Mass especially, but throughout our prayer, is a prayer in which we invite the blood of Christ not so much to wash away our thorns, but just cover them so completely in his love and in his mercy that the power of Christ is what resides in us and overcomes those lies. So when we are weak, that's when we're strong. Power is made perfect in our weakness. It's our weakness and Christ's power.